everybody, it's Julie Ebersole, and today's Hello Monday video features this really darling Christmas card with a little gingerbread guy peeking through a window, and these are actually double layered windows on a trifold card, and it's really easy to do. And the first thing I wanted to mention was that the Pinking Squares die, this is by W+9, it's really a great set of dies, comes with this plastic backing or a plastic plate that's attached to it. Now you can remove it, but I'd leave it in place because it has crosshairs. I don't know if you can see those on camera, but those crosshairs can really help, especially a girl like me who has a lot of trouble getting things lined up and centered through things. So anyway, just something to be aware of with those particular dies. Now I'm going to score my trifold, and all the measurements for the score lines and the size of the panel are listed over in the classroom, so you don't need to remember those right now. But basically, we're creating a trifold card, and once I know which one's left and which one's right and which one's the center, I'm going to mark that with a pencil, because a lot of times when I'm flipping my card and everything, I can end up stamping things upside down or on the wrong side. So just to keep me, going in the right direction, I like to make a few pencil marks. Then I'll just erase them later on when the card is finished, and nobody will ever know. Now, I've actually rotated the card upside down. I'm still going to be working on the left panel, which is going to be the front panel. But I'm positioning that die upside down because a tip somebody gave me once a long time ago was that sometimes if you work upside down, you can actually see much better whether or not you've placed something, positioned it straight or not. And by golly, it actually does work. So a lot of times you'll see me rotate my cards upside down while I'm working. So there's my first window, and I used the Lifestyle Crafts nested square die, and it's just slightly larger than the Pinking Square. So now through that window, I'm going to fold the card back closed again and use that first window to position the second die. And then I'm just going to take a few bits of washi tape. I love washi tape because it's not permanent, it's removable, and it just works really well for holding my dies in place when I send them through my Big Shot. So now I've got my Pinking Square all cut out, and you can see how those are layering together. Isn't that neat? I just love that. So it's time to start stamping, and I'm going to take out the little ginger guy from this stamp set and get him onto an acrylic block, and then we'll go ahead and stamp him through the middle of the window there. Now I do want to prep my cardstock because I'm going to be using some very fine detail embossing powder, and I don't want any of it to stick to unwanted areas on the card because sometimes my fingers have oil or there's moisture or static electricity, so it's a really good idea to prep your cardstock just before you go emboss. And that Static Magic pouch or Embossing Magic pouch, I think it's called, just works really great for that. So now I'm going to close that second panel so I can see through, because I want to center him through that second window there. I'm just going to stamp him with Versamark. That's my favorite embossing ink, but you could also use the Ranger embossing ink, which I hear tell smells like cinnamon. So hey. If you want to have that nice smell of the holidays while you're working, get the Ranger embossing powder. It smells like cinnamon. And I'm using Stampenda's Fine Detail White embossing powder, and I'm just going to heat him quickly. He will emboss a little bit faster, so you may need to get a little bit closer with the heat tool, but he will emboss faster. So just be aware, pay close attention to what you're doing so you don't scorch your paper. And then I'm also going to stamp and emboss the greeting that I want to use underneath the front window. So I opened it back up so it was nice and flat, and I could get my greeting centered right underneath that. And then that square that got punched out from the center, well, I'm just going to use it to stamp a lollipop and emboss that so that scrap gets used. It doesn't get discarded or wasted. Isn't that cool? I was like, oh, clever. So now I'm going to emboss this really quickly, and I'll get the lollipop embossed, and then we're ready to move on to the rest of the card. Now, I wanted to color him brown because, he is a ginger guy, but I didn't have quite the right color of marker. So I'm just going to tap some hazelnut Adirondack ink to a block because it's nice and water soluble. It's great for watercoloring. And I'm just going to use my water brush to pick up the color and color him exactly the shade of brown that I wanted. And I know it's silly, I'm picky, but hey, what can I say? So now I'm going to trim out the lollipop and 3D mount it. I put a pop dot on the back of the lollipop at the top, and then I'm just going to use a little mono multi to glue the lollipop handle because it's so skinny. I didn't want to bother with trimming out more foam to fit that. Plus it kind of gives it just a slightly different effect dimensionally. So we'll just tap that down into place, and then I'm going to color it with a Memento marker. This is Ladybug Red, and that actually was exactly the color red I wanted to use, so I didn't need to worry about trying to makeshift with a dye ink pad and my water brush. So now I'm going to buff off any of the marker. Because it's water-based, I can buff it off with a piece of tissue so that my white embossing lines look very bright and white. And then I wanted to put some twine, Baker's twine, appropriate for a gingerbread card. And I wanted to wrap that around the front panel, so I needed to put a little hole there, and I just used a Fiskars, just a little tiny rectangle punch to make my slit there. So then I can thread my Baker's twine through there and get that tied into a bow exactly where I need it. So once I've got that threaded through and I wanted to send it through a couple times, I'll just go ahead and position that knot right there where I need it. And I'm using my EK Tweezer Bee to hold that center position of the knot in place and keep it tight so that I can use my hands to finish tying the bow. So that's just, it's kind of my third hand when I'm working with cord and keeping things tight. Now, I actually ended up adding some stickles to the lollipop because I thought it added a little bit of bling and fun, and I got a little bit messy, and the nozzle's bigger than you think when you're trying to get a tiny detail area. So take just a little piece of scrap cardstock, and the corner works great as a squeegee for cleaning up, where you got kind of messy and the stickles got where you didn't want it. And then I'm just going to add a few of these really fun red gemstones by Hero Arts. They're just the perfect little candy dots to put on my little ginger guy. And I don't know if you've noticed it, but I added a few more there on the front, and I had to emboss the inside of the card because I was having so much fun with these images. I just wanted to add a little more. So it's kind of like a little surprise when you open up the first panel and see that. And I actually shifted my bow over to the left. I was feeling like the card wasn't properly balanced with everything leaning too heavy on the right, visually speaking. So I shifted that bow just a little to the left, and that made my eyes happy. Thanks for watching.